I'm having like a really good time right now. Hey, thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name is Kaylee, and this is Read Rant Review. I read a bunch of crazy books, and then I give you a chapter-by-chapter, beat-by-beat breakdown. Today, we are going to be reading Till Summer Do Us Part by Meghan Quinn. This is currently the #2, most sold book on Amazon, so I figured, what a good way to mix things up. If you have been on the channel for a little while, hey, we've been covering some crazy stuff lately. There's been a lot of monster romance. There's been a lot of dark, crazy stuff going on. So I just wanted a regular schmegular, little cutesy girl trending romance. And so that's what we're covering today. Meghan Quinn, famously, infamously, her name might sound familiar to you. Again, especially if you are someone who has seen my channel or seen other videos from me. She wrote the Christmas book that came out last year called How My Neighbor Stole Christmas, which was like a Grinch retelling, supposedly. In it, there's my favorite quote, which was his jingles jangled all over the jangle. It's something about his balls. Just so stupid. And that's the only thing I remember from that book, is talking about how they jangled all over that stage. Yeah, so I was like, okay, maybe I need to give her another chance. This book currently on Goodreads, it's sitting at a 4.05 with 102,000 ratings, published on June 3rd, 2025, and 432 pages, so a little bit longer than a traditional romance. I very staunchly, you guys have heard me say it and I'll say it again, I do not believe that any romance has any business being over 350 pages, unless there's obviously fantasy elements or some other type of world building. But if you're just a regular dude, a regular chick in New York, I don't need 400 pages of love story, in my opinion. That's just me though. So this book, what are we dealing with here? I'll go ahead and read you the book description. We'll knock out a couple of disclaimers and we'll dive right in. I got what I wanted. I became buddy-buddy with my boss in an instant, but the cost will be hefty. Finding a husband by tomorrow. Scotty Price just started a new job and it's a real sausage fest. She's the only woman on a team filled with Brads and Chad. Expecting a bachelor pad atmosphere, she is quickly corrected when she finds out that everyone is happily married. In an effort to impress her boss, Scotty mentions her non-existent husband in a company meeting, but eagle-eyed Chad points out her lack of wedding ring. Panicked, Scotty creates a story about her unhappy marriage. Unfortunately for Scotty, her boss has a solution: a one-on-one session with the best marriage counselor in the Northeast, who happens to be her boss's husband. With no way out of her lie, Scotty agrees to see him. Frantic, she calls in help from her best friend, who's set her up with his brother, an improv-obsessed millionaire. No! Can we ever have not a millionaire romance? Enter Wilder Wells. More than happy to take on the job, he teaches Scotty the main rule of always say yes. But the rule backfires during the session when Wilder signs them up for an 8-day summer marriage camp with all of Scotty's coworkers, where she'll have to share a cabin with her way too handsome fake husband. From New York Times bestselling author comes a brand new sizzling summer read that will have you laughing, swooning, and sweating. Ew. I don't like that. It's fine. I think the biggest thing going into this, objectively, not a bad story. There's aspects of it that obviously I really, really liked. It's just so, I'll just have to read you portions of this so you can pick up what I'm putting down, because I don't necessarily have the right words. I still can't fathom how I want to describe the writing style, but it does feel very weirdly, uniquely Meghan Quinn. Regardless, the disclaimers that I have. The first one being, obviously this review will contain all of the spoilers. The second disclaimer being, this review is not for the author. It's not for friends, fans, family, stans, anything of the like. I make jokes on the internet for a living. Don't make it weird. And the final disclaimer is a content or trigger warning that I like to throw on these videos so you know what you're getting into. Objectively, this isn't too crazy of a book for in terms of content or trigger warnings. There is discussion of her previous marriage where there was some emotional abuse that occurred. Future after filming Kaylee here, sorry I don't have a microphone. Also would like to include, there is some mentions of like physical abuse that I make in passing, as well as parental death. There's some infidelity talked about, not between the main characters, and ideation of ending one's own life. Again, not the main characters, but like people in the story kind of talking about it. And infertility. Yeah, not uber dark. A lot of it is just talked about in passing, but I think those might be the most things to take into consideration. Sorry if I missed something. I appreciate you. Love you guys. Bye. Yeah, just in general, this isn't like, you know, like a H.D. Carlton or Colleen Hoover or whatever. This isn't dark, right? Which is what we need after some of the last couple of insane books that I've read. So I'm super excited. Let's dive right in. Oh, just kidding. So the one thing I did forget to say, in the description box below is a link to my brand new gaming channel. So if you're interested in, specifically right now, I'm playing Date Everything, and the intent is to have like at least a weekly video over there of like cozy games and like fun stuff. So if that's something that you're interested in, I have had a couple people ask about it. I went ahead and made one because why not? Let's have some fun together. You know what I mean? So that's in the link below. Obviously would greatly appreciate any support. And with that, there's also some links to Apple Podcasts and Spotify, where I also have this videos, uploads, book reviews, whatever you want to call what's happening right now between us. I also have those uploaded over there too, if that's easier for you. Our book opens with a prologue talking about Scotty being recently divorced and moving to New York to be closer to her friends. She got this new job at a place called Butter Putter, editing their ad copy and editorials, and now I'm living the single life, trying to regain the confidence I lost when I was married to Matt. Okay, the only other thing to note is that it opens with the F-bomb, and that made me go, oh, we're kind of starting with a bang. And that's coming from somebody, obviously, who does just generally, I curse a lot, right? And I still flagged it in my brain. I said, that's kind of a weird way to start a book. And so I looked it up, and the F-bomb is used 319 times. Need I remind you that this is a 430-page book? So that's used 300 times. The B word is used 7. Shit is used 55. And what else? What's some other vulgarities? Terms for like, you know, a male downstairs appendage is 90 times. Jeez Louise. What else do we got? The see you next Tuesday word is used 5. That's actually kind of crazy. That's a lot. I'm like, wow, okay. Sorry, I am looking this up live. That's wild, actually. I've only read part of this book, if you can't tell. More and more, my more recent reviews have been more of like a reading vlog, or kind of like figuring this out together, because it's been a little bit more fun that way for me, and it definitely cuts down on some like editing, whatever time. So yeah, we're experiencing this together for the most part. So anyway, our prologue opens, she's in New York. Yay, so cool. In chapter 1, we learn a little bit more about her job at this Butter Putter place. And and I'll read this beginning piece to you so you understand what I'm talking about this writing style. Another freaking Thursday morning meeting where obnoxious blowhards like to hear themselves speak while absolutely nothing gets accomplished. Great. It's been 3 months at this job, and it's like clockwork. We shuffle into the conference room. Brad S. carries around a putter like he's King Arthur at the round table and talks about the 18 holes he plans on playing this weekend, while Brad F., or Finky, and Chad cheer him on from the sidelines like a bunch of fanboys, frothing at the mouth for the attention of their leader. Yeah, Brad, and Chad. The Brads and Chad. I stare off into the pit of the office. Rows of glass desks, all stacked right next to the other, placed on top of putt table astro flooring. Bobbleheads showcasing a variety of sports heroes are perched atop said desks, jouncing while penis after penis walks by. Yeah, you read that right. Penis after chino-encased penis. To tell it to you straight, I work surrounded by a real sausage fest. And that's not just any sausage fest, but the worst kind. It's what the youth are calling the finance bro. Shudders. Like asterisk, shudders, asterisk. Huh? In a book? In a Okay, sure, they're not actually finance bros, given that they work for a golf company, but they sure as hell have the aesthetic down to a science. Every day, I'm subjected to an agglomeration of company embroidered vests, khaki chino shorts, boat shoes, and polos, all entwining with early morning bro hugs and gentle razzing. Oh, you know what I mean? It's not bad, and it's a very, like, genuine depiction, but it feels... How old is Meghan Quinn? It feels so millennial coded. And again, like, I say that as somebody who's like about to turn 30, but it still is just a lot. Meghan Quinn, how old are you, girl? 39. Yeah, exactly. So this, and I don't say this with any offense at all. Literally, like I said, I'm, hey, right there with you, right? But it reads like an older millennial, or like an older person in general that's like trying to sound like hip and cool, and like, you know what I mean, trying maybe a little bit too hard for that. They pile into this conference room, and on this particular day, the CEO is coming to the office, and she is literally the only other woman at the company. Her name is Ellison, and being the only other woman, Scotty gets really, really excited just to have some type of like estrogen in the room with her, you know? So they're all hanging out in the conference room. Ellison comes in, and the guys are all talking about what they're doing that weekend and how they're going to spend it with their wives, and someone's going to go hiking, and these other ones are going to watch some TV shows, you know, like the casual type of conversation. Somebody asks her what she's going to do that weekend, and she freezes because she doesn't want to feel like a reject. She doesn't want to feel like this tainted, recently divorced, you know, unpartnered person. Some people, when you get a divorce, kind of look at you weird, or there's this like I said, this taintedness about you that people don't want to like catch. Like, they don't want to catch the divorce bug. Okay, right? So she's very, very self-conscious about this fact. And so she kind of makes up a lie on the spot. And she's like, yeah, you know, my husband and I, you know, we have plans too. Chad, he's like, but you're not wearing a wedding ring. So like, are you even married? Like, I'm pretty sure you're just lying to us. You know, that's not good, right? I said, hello? I don't think coworkers talk like that, but that's fine. She says, thank you, Chad, for bringing up my ringless finger to everyone's attention. I didn't plan on sharing this with the group, but my husband and I are actually going through a rocky time at the moment, and we've taken some breaks, hence no ring. And internally, she's thinking, haha, in your face, Chad. Take that. Eat it and gag. Yup, freaking gag. The room falls silent. Only the hushed hum of computer monitors fills the office space. I hope you're all happy, she's thinking, you married loving cult. I hope you all look in the mirror and think how horrible it is that you humiliated poor Scotty to the point of having to air out her marital issues in front of floor 23, all because Chad just had to make his dick look big. Oh. So Ellison, right, the CEO, she says, Scotty, can I talk to you outside for a moment? Pulls her outside, and Ellison says, hey, my husband is this like really, really renowned marriage counselor, and he's like very, very successful, and I'm gonna text him, and like, you have to go and see him tomorrow immediately. Like, you and your husband, you have to work this out. Scotty says, okay. Pretends to text somebody, you know, pretends that she's like waiting to confirm schedule availability. She does, and now she has a marriage counseling appointment with nobody, right? Set up. And so begins the adventure to acquire a fake husband in the next 24 hours. Kind of an interesting premise, right? Like, it's not low stakes, obviously, because she like doesn't want to be embarrassed in front of her company. But in terms of like books and dramas and whatnot, this is very, again, lighthearted, and just what a goofy thing, right? That's all I felt this entire book. That's like all I was kind of thinking as I had been throughout the reading that I have done of the book. That's what I was thinking the whole time. I was like, this is so silly goofy. What a dumb thing to happen. And it's not bad. It's you know what I'm saying. And so in chapter 2, Scotty is consulting with her best friend, Micah. He bartends at a gay bar. So they're hanging out, they're BSing. Her other best friend, Denise, comes and, you know, has some good news. And Micah and Scotty don't really react. And she's like, what the hell is going on with you two? Like, what's your problem? Why aren't you so happy for me? Micah explains that Scotty's been having a rough day. And after, you know, they explain this like whole debacle, and they start game planning, right? They're brainstorming on what they could possibly do. And Scotty like begs Micah to be her fake husband, but she's also kind of afraid that the marriage counselor will be able to tell immediately that Micah is gay, and that would add like a whole other drama to all of this. And so she's so desperate to figure something out. And eventually Micah says, hey, what about my brother Wilder? He could do it, right? He's 27. He recently retired. So she reluctantly agrees, and Micah texts Wilder. Wilder is down. No hesitation. Crisis averted. Whew. In chapter 3, we get Wilder's perspective. Again, I will read it to you so you understand his voice. Binoculars, binoculars, where art thou, there you are, you motherfucker. Diagonal and backward, should have known. I highlight the word binoculars in my word search with a green Sharpie highlighter. They have the clear window to look through while you're highlighting, making them the best on the market at the moment. I pick up my Diet Coke with lime, take a sip, and then start looking for the word cravat. Tonight's word search theme is things you wear around your neck. The night took a turn for the worse when I had to try to find noose. I thought it was vastly inappropriate, but this isn't my normal word search brand. It's one Micah found for me when he was visiting his friends upstate. He liked that there was a swear word puzzle. And I'm not a prude by any means. Some might say I have a dirtier mouth than others, but there's a time and fucking place for it. And it's not in a word search puzzle. Oh, so he's texting his brother. Micah, Scotty needs a fake husband for a therapy session tomorrow. You in? She weird? She's my friend. What do you think? Slightly weird, but solid personality. Exactly. Are you in? I think for it on a second. I mean, there's not much context to this message, but then again, things have been pretty flat around here, and I could use a new experience to mix up my day-to-day. Might give me a chance to work on my improv skills. Which I've been dying to do given the classes that I've been taking. Bringing my knowledge into a real world setting really gets the adrenaline going. Seems like a no-brainer to me. So he's down. Oh, okay. So he agrees to it. Micah sends him Scotty's contact information, and there's the little contact photo of her. And immediately she's beautiful. She's super hot. And so he's like, why in the hell would she need a fake husband? This gorgeous, gorgeous woman. This is, something's off here. And Micah immediately texts and he says, you're probably doing intel on her already, noticing how hot she is, but she's drinking right now, so you might not want to text her at the moment. She's questioning her decisions. Shoot for later. Understood. Have fun. I set my phone down and stare at the burning fireplace image on the TV that I set every night while Led Zeppelin plays in the background. Pretend husband, marriage counseling with a girl named Scotty. I think this is something I can run with. Smiling to myself, I pick up my notepad and pen that I always keep close by. I tug on my lip ring with my teeth and start taking notes on how I can play this character. You know, this might be the fun that I need in life right now. A lip ring! I can't get over that. I mean, that's hot, don't get me wrong. I just feel like I don't ever see men with lip rings. I feel like that was only on Tumblr days. Yeah, when's the last time I saw a guy with a lip ring? Probably high school, right? And snake bites. I know a couple guys with those. The skater guys, you know? That's so funny. Oh, lip ring! I make myself laugh. I can't do this. We get introduced to Denise's partner, right? So Denise is Scotty's best friend. Her partner is Wilder's accountant. So essentially, basically, not that these characters really matter, they don't really come up very much, but it's this matter of interconnectivity and support systems and you know what I mean? Everybody just has good support and there's good friendships and it's very just people existing in a book, which is so wonderful, which I know sounds like such a weird thing to say. But again, if you have heard the types of dark romances that we've read on this channel, or really, I feel like so many romance books end up turning into this a vacuum of only the main male and main female character, and the only thing that you read about is what happens and the interaction between those two people, and it's as if the world around them doesn't happen, if that makes sense. And so it's to have an actual kind of world fleshed out around them with all of these things continuing to happen, whether they're in the scene or not. It really just kind of adds a layer of obviously reality to a situation and believability, and you get kind of sucked into this universe more so than sucked into this one particular aspect of a relationship. It really just kind of helps flesh out the character development, you know what I mean? And it doesn't feel frivolous when these people are introduced. I'm making it sound frivolous because that's just how I'm talking about it, but it serves a purpose and it serves it well, in my opinion. So anyway, The accountant, Denise's husband, best friend's husband, whatever, he says, hey, this is probably like a really bad idea. Like, I don't think being a fake husband is really, really solid for anybody. I think it's going to backfire. Yeah, whatever, man. Press on. Well, at least we try to have a voice of reason here, right? So when he goes to meet Scotty, he's like wearing jeans and a t-shirt. He's got the lip ring, and she's just not impressed. And he finds her very cold and standoffish, and just in general, like her demeanor is very just off-putting. And they kind of go over what to expect, right? Like what's going to happen next. But I'll just read you this initial interaction. Hi, I'm Scotty. Well, oh yeah, wait, hold on, she's cold. Hi, I'm Scotty. Hey, I'm Wilder. Nice to meet you. Yes, well, I'm sorry we had to meet like this for the first time under these circumstances. I'm not. I say with a smile, causing her eyes to meet mine, confusion evident. Excuse me? I shrug. Breaks up the normal routine, and it allows me an opportunity to practice my improv. Improv? Yeah, Micah didn't tell you, it's a hobby of mine. So kind of frothing to test myself in real life. Not to mention really enjoying the whole angle of this. I'm thinking I should start a business to pretend to be fake husbands all around the city. Her mouth parts open in surprise as she adjusts her purse strap again. I'll have you know there's nothing exciting or enjoyable about this angle for me. I woke up this morning on the verge of losing all the contents in my stomach. From nerves or from drinking last night? She lifts her chin, showing me that this woman has a lot of pride, and she plans on displaying it often. Nerves. I had 2 drinks last night. If they were made by Micah, 2 drinks is more like 6. It doesn't matter, she says, swiping her hand at me. What matters is that there's nothing I want more than for all of this to be over. I hate that I got myself into this mess, and now I have to dig myself out. I'd appreciate it if you didn't find joy in my demise. Demise? Babe, a demise would imply that there'll be death. That there'll be a death at the end of all this. From where I'm standing, you're looking pretty healthy. First of all, do not call me babe. Second of all, if I screw this up, I might as well throw myself off the cliff, because there's no way that I'll be able to step foot in my office building ever again. Wow, seems pretty high stakes. It is, and I would appreciate it if you go along with my plan, and in return, I'll do anything you like, within reason, no sexual favors. What the fuck? And he's like, no, it's cool, dude. He's like, I literally don't want anything. You don't have to repay me. This is like, I'm doing something fun on my Friday morning. Like, don't stress it. And he just starts talking more about his improv and like different kinds of improv. And she's getting pissed because he's not taking this seriously. And so he's like, okay, fine. So like, what do you want me to know? What do you think this guy is going to ask? Like, let's, game plan this character for this improv thing for me, right? And she says, look, we've been married for 5 years. We met at the bar. We had a whirlwind of a romance, got married too young, and now we both want different things. What do you want? I don't know. Well, don't you think that's a question the guy's gonna ask? I don't know. Maybe I want children and you don't. Technically, I think children are pretty awesome, and I wouldn't mind a few. Okay, but this isn't what you personally want. This is just a character, so the Wilder that goes in there, he doesn't want kids. Sure, I mean, I don't like it, but I can go with it. If anything, I'm adjustable. Great, let's go. What do I do for a living? I ask, not moving as she starts to walk away. She turns around to face me. I don't know, like sell pharmaceuticals? I know nothing about the pharmaceutical industry. Can't you make it up? That's tougher. Okay, so what do you know? Word searches. I know how to solve a Rubik's Cube in seconds. I know the difference between Coke, Diet Coke, Coke Zero, and the pure that is Pepsi. Dear God, she mutters as she turns away. I also know a lot about green roofs. I continue sidestepping her clear irritation. What are green roofs? It's partially covered or fully covered roof of vegetation. They're great for cities because they help reduce the heat island effect by reducing sunlight, and they help cool the buildings surrounding them. Not to mention they clean the air and reduce energy consumption and water runoff they have psychological benefits. Okay, sure, you do green roofs. I can see someone cares about the planet. I say offhandedly, please, Wilder, I'm just trying to make it out of this next hour. Once this is done, we can go our merry ways and never see each other again. I wouldn't say never. You're my best friend's brother. What? Sorry. I wouldn't say never. Your best friend is my brother. If he ever gets married, we'll definitely see each other unless there's a falling out between the two of you. You know what I mean, okay? We won't have to play these parts again, okay? What if I need you to return the favor in a fake marriage scheme? Then obviously we would see each other again, but that's only because I would feel like I need to. Good to know. Now, are you ready, or do you have any other questions? Nah, let's do this. I rub my hands together, and then I follow my fake wife up the street to our first marriage counseling session. To our first marriage counseling session. Let the games begin. We go into chapter 4. He is hot. We're back in Scotty's POV. And it is messing her up. She is not supposed to be attracted to this man. She says, why didn't Micah ever bother to tell me that his brother is a hipster version of Prince Eric? I wasn't expecting such an attractive man to show up. The gene pool in that family is incredibly impressive. And so then she's like drooling over him, and that's part of the reason she was like so standoffish to him and just kind of like whatevered. So they go into this whole marriage counseling thing, and immediately the counselor, his name is Sanders, he and Wilder hit it off. They're talking about sports, and it really pisses Scotty off because she just doesn't want to be around men doing men things. She just wants to get this like conversation over with, right? So they go into establishing the relationship and what went wrong, and Wilder, his improv, goes off the rails almost immediately, and it's really, really pissing her off. And of course, like every single thing that he says in response to the therapist is indicative of them being like adventurous in bed, right? And so the counselor asks that directly. It's like, oh, so you would say that you're adventurous in bed? She's thinking that would be a no. And Wilder says, very. We've done it all. Name the position, check. Name the angle, done it. Name the body part, licked it. And she's thinking, dear God in heaven, I can feel my cheeks flame with embarrassment as a smidge of sweat starts to drip down my back. Oh, like this is very charged. And whatever. If I were her, I would be feeling the same exact way. Like, I don't like that conversation. It's just so awkward to have to like improv such a thing in this like therapy session, right? And she's thinking this too. She says, can we just pause for a moment and take a step back? Because this therapy session went from 0 to 60 in what feels like 5 seconds. We're discussing our sex life already. Whatever happened to gentle pleasantries? I guess there are none when you're paying by the hour. And so Sanders, he's like, okay, so very passionate stuff. Did this like come to an end? Like, what's going on? And they say, yeah, it's died a lot. Like, it's really, really died down. He says, okay, why do you think that is? Wilder says, well, Scotty doesn't want kids. And she internally, she's like, you're the one that wasn't supposed to want kids. Like, now he's completely flipped the script from what they discussed, like, going into this. So again, just like rage boiling within her over this situation. He goes on to tell some like crazy detailed stories. Like I said, just like deep dive improv insanity, and she's like, her mind is blown in not a good way at all. And it gets to a point where they're kind of like bickering with each other in front of the therapist. And then finally she just says, can we just pause for a second? Like, I'll be honest, walking in here, I told Wilder to make it seem like we're okay because I wanted to save face. Like, you're my boss's husband after all. But to be truthful, we're both unhappy and we've been unhappy for a while. And I don't want to fool you into thinking that there's like a chance that it's going to change anything. So I appreciate the session, but I think it's just better if we go. Okay. So that's her plan, right? If she just ends it, she can at least say that she tried and, you know, prove to somebody that her husband really existed, and then now they can get separated and she doesn't have to ever bring this up again. Which I'm like, so we're just circling back to the fact that like you're going to be the divorced person in the office again. So this isn't really helping your case. Like, now you just lied for no reason whatsoever, right? It doesn't really matter because that issue doesn't happen, because instead the says, you know what, actually, before you decide on that, there is this, I want you guys to go on this 8-day marriage retreat up in the mountains. Wilder immediately, being the yes and improv guy, says, hell yeah, that sounds awesome. It's like a summer camp for adults. Sanders goes on to explain more about this camp thing. We focus on bonding techniques, open conversations, and finding the true reason why we fell in love in the first place. It's activity focused, so if you think you're going to be sitting on a couch all day, that's not the case. So Scotty interrupts their conversation as they're talking more and more about this, and Wilder's getting amped up, and she says, this all looks so nice, but I don't have enough vacation days to make this work. Oh, no, there's nothing that you need to worry about. Ellison always gives time off to attend my camps. Of course she does. Sanders looks between us, a smile stretching across his face. So what do you think? You want to give it a shot? This is so nice, but we'd love to. Wilder says, taking my hand in his as he lovingly looks in my direction. I'm self-employed, so I don't need to worry about vacation time from work. Did he just say what I thought he said? Did he just agree to a marriage camp for 8 days? Fantastic, Sanders says, and then picks up his football and tosses it over to Wilder. To my horror, Wilder catches it, gets off the couch, and starts charging towards Sanders, jukes him out, and spikes the ball into the office floor before raising his hands in the air. Touchdown! Yeah, he's getting my shoe. The heel, right to the esophagus. Chapter 5, Wilder's POV. They step out of the office, and he's like, man, I think that went really, really well. And Scotty says, excuse me? What do you mean you think this went well? Like, this is the worst possible case scenario, right? And she's like, does your brother know how crazy you are? Like, you're literally clinically insane. Like, we cannot be doing this. And he's like, yeah, whatever. It seems like it'll be a good time. Like, just keep an open mind. And she rubs her temples and she says, seemed fun? Wilder, don't you hear what you're saying? I can't afford a marriage retreat, even if I was married. Don't worry about it, I say nonchalantly. It's my treat. Okay, besides the fact that you can just throw down 15 grand as a treat, I don't have the luxury of picking up and going to the Catskills for 8 days. I actually have a job and a life. He said Ellison would give you the time off, and I didn't think it would be a big deal. And from what I experienced in that office, it seems like you might be a touch uptight and need to loosen up. This camp might do that. She says, I was uptight because you weren't listening to my instructions. And they just, like, again, bicker, banter back and forth. This book is on Kindle Unlimited if you were interested in reading the extent of the discussions. Like, again, so much of this is dialogue based, and it's not bad dialogue by any means. Like I said, some of it's like a little cringy in certain ways, or like it's very specific Meghan Quinn writing style, which is, it's not bad. It's just like a thing that you kind of have to experience on your own. So I'm skipping a lot of the dialogue because there's so freaking much of it. I think that's why her books are as long as they are. Not a bad thing, but you know what I'm saying. So anyway, so they're going on, arguing, and ultimately Scotty is like, okay, the only option that I have here is just to tell the truth. Like, I'm just gonna have to tell Ellison the truth and come out about this. And Wilder feels bad because obviously she's his brother's best friend. You know, she's like a really, really loyal friend, and like he just in general just kind of feels guilty for everything that's happened. And so he says, hey, you know, you said earlier about this whole thing that like if you tell them that you're getting divorced, you'll feel like a pariah. So how about we go to this retreat, we declare it a success, right? We're back together and we just continue this whole faked marriage act until you're able to find a new job. And Scotty worries that it's going to take like a long time for her to be able to find a new position. And also, she just like cannot comprehend why Wilder would want to do this. Like, why would you voluntarily be somebody's fake husband for an indeterminate amount of time? But yet again, Wilder just says it's for the improv. You got to commit to the bit. It'll be an experience. And so he says, okay, fine, though. We'll put a time limit on it, 6 months. I'll be your fake husband for 6 months so that you can try and find another job. And you don't have to feel bad or feel weird about it. So, aye, Captain. Looks like they're going on a marriage retreat. In chapter 6, she's going back to work and she runs into Ellison, and Ellison asks how the appointment went. And she's saying, you know, it was okay, and how Sanders had offered for her to go to the counseling to the camp thing. And Ellison says, oh my God, that's so great. Yeah, of course you can have time off to go to the marriage camp. The Brads and Chad are also going with their spouses. They go every year. Oh, great. So now Scotty definitely can't get out of going to this, and they really, really are going to have to like put on a show. And later that night, Wilder texts her, and he's talking about how he did a little bit of research for this retreat, and he says that he's going to make a trip to Target to pick up some necessities, and he asks if there's anything that she needs. Okay, considerate. Okay, planning. Like, hey, he has his life together. Bars in hell, it's hot, right? So she says, she's like, what kind of necessities could we possibly need for this camp? Like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you going to be getting? And he says, bug spray for me. I need some sandals because I don't ever wear them. And I also need some swim trunks, some new socks, toothpaste, probably a new toothbrush, some word searches, a deck of cards. And it says not to bring any food, but I'm a dick if I don't have a suite at night when on vacation. Nerds clusters are my jam. And she's thinking to herself, why do I find it so amusing that this emo beanie wearing wannabe actor is going to just grab some socks from the local Target? He does not give off those kind of vibes. He's very different from what I pictured in my head, and I refuse to think that that's a good thing. And also, he likes nerd clusters. We unfortunately have that in common. She texts him back and she says, I'm good. I'll probably head out this weekend and get some things for myself, but if you're stocking up on nerd clusters, get me a pack too. I almost don't send it because I don't want him thinking that we can bond over nerd clusters, but I also don't want to be trapped in a cabin with him chewing on his own bag that I'll have to share. The text was a risk I was willing to take. He texts back and he says, you like nerd clusters? God, I knew he'd be excited about that. Why do I feel like I know him already? I need to ask Micah about his brother because they're nothing alike. Micah is more jaded, rough around the edges, can be flamboyant at times, but not so much that it's blatantly obvious. He tends to look at the glass as half empty most of the time and rarely has a positive outlook on life. Whereas Wilder, he seems to have his rose-colored glasses on all the time. Y'all have talked one time. You guys have had one conversation. Anyway, they go on to text a lot, like for the rest of the night. And again, it's cute. I love a good epistolary. I don't know how to say the word, but it's like the stories that are told through like letters and messages and stuff. I love that. Give me a good text message. Let's cut out the BS of like, I said, and he looked, and we touched, and blah, 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 blah. Just give me the freaking dialogue. So I love text message conversations, and yeah, just cut to the point of like the dialogue where you're building the relationship. And again, it's not bad. It's cute. It's believable. There's personality. It's funny. Like, I'm not complaining about any of that part of the book at all. So she does, however, she hangs out with Micah and she's like, is your brother a psychopath? He's not. Then why are you smiling? Because I find it funny that you asked the moment you saw me. Knowing Wilder, you probably had quite the experience today. Yeah, you could say that. You owe me a drink, your best margarita. And this is where Micah reveals that he had sold an app for a significant amount of money. He's rich, hence the whole retirement, has a lot of time on his hands kind of thing. And she's like, are you serious? I thought he was just an out-of-work actor. And so they have this like whole giggle back and forth. And their conversation ends with her saying, he likes nerd clusters. He does. I like nerd clusters. You do. I look right into Micah's eyes. He's buying some for our trip because that's the kind of guy he is. He's the most humble, rich that you'll ever meet. Micah winks and takes off down the bar to help another customer. Okay, that's kind of cute. I love the fact, and again, we talked about this with, what was the book that I just did? Terms? Something Terms? Hello, Fine Terms, Good Terms, by Lauren Asher. What was that book? How did I already forget? I'm like, the way I brain dump these books is absolutely insane sometimes. Oh, Fine Print, right? Terms and Conditions is the second book in the series. So like 2 weeks ago now, we read the book Fine Print by Lauren Asher, which is the whole like Disneyland, the Temu Disneyland grandson, billionaire knockoff like thing. And it was this the billionaire that was like completely out of touch with reality and like was just a complete piece of crap. And so I had such a hard time finding that main male character attractive because he was just this out of touch rich guy. In this instance, we're still dealing with a millionaire, but it's new money. It's new money millionaire who's a really, really smart guy that just happened to sell something off a couple of months ago. And then now he just like has money and he's like spoiling people in his life. Now that I can get behind. It's still a little questionable. In the year of our Lord 2025, eat the rich, you know what I'm saying? However, I can get behind it in this very particular instance. Going into chapter 7, Wilder picks up Scotty. Very, very clearly she's anxious. Very, very clearly she's like hesitant and freaky outy about this entire situation, but he wants her to feel comfortable. And so he's like, hey, ask me anything that you want. Like, let's get to know each other so that this isn't awkward, right? As they make their drive up to the Catskills for this retreat thing. So they play this little questions game, right? So she asks him a bunch of questions, right? Found out he went to college. He's really into art, like charcoal and watercolor, and he loves to bird watch. And again, we're just getting very cute character establishment. And then we learn about his app, and it was called Soda Tracker. She says, wait, you came up with Soda Tracker? That's like Yelp for soda. That's a huge app. I scratched my neck. Yeah. How did you come up with that? It was my freshman year, and I was tired as shit most of the time from staying up too late and waking up too early for class. I wasn't a big coffee drinker, but I loved any type of Coke. Diet Coke, regular, Coke Zero. But I found out pretty quickly that not all Cokes are the same, especially around the city. And I'd get irritated when I thought I'd be getting a crispy crunchy cracker. Sorry. Not me dropping a bald and beautiful reference randomly. Crispy Coke straight from the fountain, only to find out that it was flat. To find out it was flat. So one late night, I was bouncing ideas around in my head and came up with Soda Tracker. It allows users to see who serves what brand of soda, which is important. And then it also allows the users to rate the soda, therefore not having to deal with disappointment. It started small, but now it has millions of users constantly rating, offering suggestions. I can't believe Micah never said anything. He doesn't say much about me in that aspect. I tend to keep it private. That's why you said you don't date much, because if people find out who you are. Hold on, does that sentence make sense to you? That's why you said you don't date much, because if people find out who you are. I feel like I'm stroking out. I understand what she's trying to say, but I don't think that's a real sentence. Anyway, he says, yeah, people tend to get weird when they find out I have money. I mean, when you casually drop $15,000 for a life experience, I can see why. It's a fun life experience. Why'd you sell it? It got bigger than I could handle. I hold stock in it though, and I go to investment meetings often. Now they're introducing paid services for companies who want to offer users a unique drinking experience. Influencers are getting on board, and a recipe section is being updated as we speak. It's kind of cool seeing a small idea turn into something so large. And so then when you sold it, you retired, right? I nod. Why did you retire if you're so bored? I thought it was what I wanted at the time, but it got old pretty quickly, so that's why I volunteer a lot. And he volunteers at the whole green roofs thing that we talked about earlier. He's volunteering? This millionaire man is using his free time for good? Okay. Hey. Okay. I'll hear you out, my guy. I will hear you out. Because she's also like, so why are you staying in New York then? Like, if you have all this money, if you could go anywhere in the world, like, what are you doing staying around here? And he says it's for Micah. Oh, she says, and I can see her working through the information. She knows what I'm talking about. She's stayed by his side through all the mental health struggles that he's dealt with. I'm not comfortable leaving him. I continue, not when I know that there are times in his life when he looks to me, when he needs me. I could do whatever I want, but being here close to him, that's what matters to me the most right now. I never really thought about that. It makes me think that the chance of you murdering me is now at an all-time low. That makes me laugh out loud. Why do you say that? Because you're not just a robot in a pair of jeans and a beanie. There's a heart in there. I keep trying to, not that I'm like trying to hate this. We're on page 78. We're 18% of the way through the book. I'm not trying to hate it. It's just like some of it I think comes off so strong. Like it gets laid on so thick that it makes me cringe. But in general, I'm having like a really good time right now. So the rest of the drive, they're talking about the specific like instructions and like what they're going to be doing, what kind of stories that they're going to be telling, and you know that Wilder needs to tone down his approach and not rely on like the whole improv rule to say yes to everything. Like they really need to kind of like scope this situation and like hone it in, right? Give it some left and right limits. Like let's flesh out what this whole thing is about to be. And really, the only thing that matters, like Scotty's biggest concern, is that Chad is going to see that they're not a real couple, since he's like the one that tried to expose her in the first place in the boardroom about not having a husband. So now she's like, I just know he's going to be all weird about it. So that's the biggest thing, as I want to prove to him that we're in a relationship and I don't really care about anything else. So she's like, we should be affectionate, but not overly so, you know, like limiting our physical touch, like, you know, maybe a little bit of hugging and hand holding, but like no kissing. And then this discussion ends because she says, okay, great, this could work. Wait, another rule. You're not allowed to be friends with Brad's and Chad. I can't stomach the thought of you high-fiving them. They're not our friends. They're mere pawns in the game we're playing. Got it? Pawns. Not sure why I find that so funny and charming. Got it. We're not friends with them. Anything else? Well, of course, the respectful rules of sharing a cabin together. Right. No looking, no touching, no snooping. Snooping? I didn't even think about that. Is that something you normally do? I shrug. I mean, on occasion. Depends on who it is and where I'm at. Wilder, that's an invasion of privacy. Well aware. Never stopped me. I'm fascinated by people. I like to see what they're doing, what they're going through, what kind of deodorant they're using, and if it has aluminum in it. I glance at her. Does yours? She shakes her head. I use native. Girl, I I hope Meghan Quinn got paid for saying that. Why are you dropping brand names of deodorants? And he says, hey, so do I. I point to my chest. And here you are, worried, but we're already bonding. Nerd clusters and aluminum-free deodorant? We're like 2 peas in a pod. This silly, silly man. And we go into chapter 8, but this is where I stop recording for the night because it is 8 p.m. and I need to go shower. I will see you tomorrow and we'll wrap up this crazy book. Hi friends, it's day number 2. So much time has passed, not for you, but for me. And we've got some big news. I just got another thing in the mail. So this is from KC, like the letters, _bombshell_designs, based out of Kansas City. Her name is Layla. Look at this like beautiful, beautiful freaking, it's a little out of focus. It's so cool and it's customized and it's, oh my God, I can't recommend her enough. She also made this like sick ass panther. Dude, are you kidding me? This is like the American traditional tattoo decor of my dreams. They're so high quality and like beautiful and like just, I'm so happy. I have to shout her out because I got this one delivered today and I'm like, I can't stop staring at it. I literally want to like put it on a necklace and just like take it with me everywhere I go. You know what I mean? It's sick. Okay, we'll put that up there for now. I'm getting more shelves put in over here, and then I'm getting another bookshelf made. My dad made this bookshelf for me when I was in like 3rd grade, and so he's gonna make me another one, and then I can have them on both sides. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We're working on more decor situations and whatnot for the office, but I have such cool stuff and I'm just so happy with it. Back to business, like what you're really here for this book. So when we get into chapter 8, they arrive at Camp Haven and it is literally everything that Scotty expected it to be. It literally, Wilder had done some previous research and it used to be like a kids' summer camp that Sanders, like the owner guy, the therapist guy, had like inherited and then turned it into like a marriage counseling camp after it had like died down and wasn't getting the sales and whatnot anymore. Like shifted focus, did this, whatever. So it is incredibly the epitome, the idealistic version of what you would expect like a summer camp to be. I never went to one, so I don't know what exactly that means. Just some cabins around a lake, I guess. So they roll up and immediately Sanders, right, the therapist guy, collects their phones. They're not allowed to have them. It's complete retreat, right? It's contraband. And they get their bags searched and their little nerd clusters get taken away and it's very, very heartbreaking. And immediately they're given a golf ball. A golf ball? Hello? They're given a golf ball because they work at that Butter Putter place. I still hate that name. So she works at Butter Putter. So the theme of it is they get this golf ball and the first like assignment thing is to paint it to represent your relationship through the years or like your love for each other. And also I just realized I'm very fuzzy and out of focus, so hold on a second. Is that any better? I genuinely can't tell. I think it is. Sorry if it's not. This is what I get for filming by myself and like you're so far away. The camera is like literally another like 3 feet past where my hand is. Like I'm screwed. This is why I need help. But anyway, back to the story. So they have this golf ball and they're tasked with painting it to be like representative of their relationship. A whole bunch of back and forth. Wilder, being the ever so artistic, profound individual he is, he's like, well, let's represent our relationship through a series of colors. Because that's a lot easier to fake than doing like actual photos or like actual like symbols or something, because obviously they have not been dating. So they represent their life through a series of colors. You have like yellow for happiness, you have the green for when they were incredibly happy, and then it all kind of like culminates to red when it was bad, and then brown when all of the colors mix together into their like cold era that they are in currently. Long story short, what this like eventually devolves into is all of the couples then playing a game of like putt-putt with the golf balls that they painted. They all play it. They're like tied together with a rope to like force them to bond. I don't know. There's some weird stuff that happens. She and Wilder pretend to get into a fight. He gets worked up and forgets that they're tied together and tries to storm away. And so then she falls down. She hits her like head, like her eye specifically, on a rock. I feel like that escalated incredibly quickly, but they did win the putt-putt thing. So that is super cool. Come in. Hi, buddy. Oh, hi, sissy. Hi, everybody. Oh my goodness, everybody's here. How's it going? You're living La Vida Loca? What'd you say? Sorry. Who am I? There we go. How do I know about dinosaurs?
So you know like dinosaurs.
I do like dinosaurs. What you know about dinosaurs? Yeah, I know. Those are actually really impressive, dude. There's so many wires in this room. Like, especially like over there. Like, I just got the streaming setup thing. It's... You're okay? Good, I'm glad. We spoke too soon. Fist bump? There we go. Thank you. Thank you, buddy. Bye! Bye! Okay, back to the video for real this time. So in chapter 9, Wilder, understandably, obviously, feels absolutely horrific that Scotty hurt her face, right? That he like had caused this. So he takes her to the nurse. She gets some treatment. She feels a little woozy, and she makes this really interesting comment. And I guess this is probably the most like direct that I would be talking about her past relationship, and maybe something that might be a little bit triggering in terms of like domestic violence and like emotional abuse and things of that nature. So I'll go ahead and put up a little timer or like a little whatever indicator of what I'm about to say. So if you would like to skip this portion, given those topics that I'll talk about for a minute, obviously protect your peace and do what you have to do, okay? So they leave the nurse, and she asks, do I have a black eye? Yeah, I mean, a little. She nods, and then she whispers, cool. Cool, he's thinking, and here I thought she was going to be steaming with anger. Cool? I ask her, are we going to have to check your head again? No, I'm fine. The nurse cleans up while I say, can you explain to me why it's cool to have a black eye? I've always wanted one, she says in a dreamlike state. Okay, I do think that we need to check her again, because I've spent maybe a few hours of my life with this lady, and I can tell you right now that there is no way that a woman who wanted to murder me after our first therapy session would find a black eye at a company marriage retreat dreamy. Continuing, she says, I've been hit in the head many times, but never a black eye. Always such a letdown. I thought my eyes were incapable of blacking out, but it looks like it only took a rock and a 200 plus pound man behind me, pushing me into said rock to make it happen. What do you mean that you've been hit in the head many times? Who the f hit you? She looks up at me and she tilts her head to the side, cupping my cheek. She says, oh, look at you caring about me. Who hit you, Scotty? I say with a hard edge to my voice. No one, but you know, like a ball or a can of beans, something like that. Did you get hit in the head with a can of beans? Not a very good catch. The nurse leans in and says, she might be a bit off for a while. I arranged a golf cart to take you to your cabin, and I believe Sanders is waiting out front. Would you like me to help you carry her out? No, I can do it. I say as I stand and then go to pick up Scotty, but she whacks me away. I can stand and walk by myself. I can't possibly be carried out of here. Humiliating. I need to look tough, scare people with my bloody black eye. Oh, is all I can say to any of that. Again, I try not to like trauma dump on the internet, because I don't think it's really, obviously it's not really appropriate. But sometimes you read something in a book and you say, wow, what an oddly specific experience that I never expected to like experience, that I never expected to like read about or like have somebody else relate to. And so oftentimes when I find that in a book and I have one of those moments of, oh wow, like somebody else like has experienced, again, this like very, very specific feeling that I've had, and it gives me this level of validation, I sit there and I say, maybe somebody else also needs that level of validation, that maybe they're not crazy, or like what they have felt or thought or whatever. And so this is where I would just like to say, like, break, away from all of this book stuff, away from all of the like drama and the stupid hee hee ha ha fun times on this channel. I I was in like verbally and emotionally abusive relationships, plural. And it's this really, really weird, I don't know if it's really like a guilt, but it feels very like invalidating to be like, oh yeah, I'm walking away from this relationship with a lot of like really f***ed up trauma that was never really like quantifiable. Yeah, sure, I have like some text messages and there's like some, you know, things that are documented in such a way that I could be able to say abuse and have it be verified, but I never got any bruises, right? I never got any like physical evidence that somebody else could see or like interpret and like understand the pain that like I felt or like what was really happening behind closed doors, especially because in those types of relationships, usually those people are so manipulative in the first place that nobody else sees it, right? Like they know how to act around other people, and oftentimes it ends up being only their like romantic partner that is like the brunt or like that experiences the brunt of the abuse, or like they're the only people that experience this like really like almost evil side of this person. And it's hard to explain and it's hard to get people to believe because everybody like they're like, oh no, they're such a good person, blah 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 blah. And so you do almost and I don't say this just with partners, right? This is also applicable to like parents and like any relationship really in your life where you're experiencing abuse that doesn't have this like tangible, measurable thing, that it gets really, really easy to get stuck in this mindset that it's your fault or that it's not as bad as you think it is, or like you're being dramatic, or that like nobody will ever take you seriously because you can't prove it. And you end up in this like whole spiral that ultimately isolates you more. And more you just feel like you're making it up and that you're being crazy and dramatic. And like they, as people who are emotionally and verbally abusive, will validate those thoughts, right? They will validate every little evil thing that the voice in your head says. They will somehow like tap into that like psyche bad voice of yours and will say all of it to you. And it feels like this verification that all of these negative thoughts that you've ever had about yourself are true. And it is such a like slippery slope, so difficult thing to get out of. And it's such a difficult thing to then eventually learn how to not hear their voice when you think things about yourself. And it's hard to obviously break like negative thinking patterns about yourself and negative thinking patterns that were enforced for potentially years of your life. And to get out of that and figure out who you are and what you like, and understand that you are in fact actually a like likable, worthwhile human being that is not all of these negative things that they have like force fed you for years at a time. It's incredibly difficult. And so to see it in this way, and it continues to be discussed kind of throughout this book. The whole basis of this book is this woman getting over and coping and kind of working through relationship therapy and marriage counseling through this horrific relationship that she was in previously. While she's going through counseling with a completely innocent bystander, she is still going through marriage counseling and getting talked through all of these horrible experiences. Like, it's almost this, not proxy, not vicariously, but like, it's not directly related to her relationship, but for her, like, internal it is. You know what I mean? Like, she's kind of like projecting her past relationship onto these situations. And it's done so well. And I think I might be biased and I might be blinded to parts of this book because I related so heavily to this main female character of wanting to figure out who you are after being force-fed somebody else's idea of you, and somebody else's idea of you being so little and bad so that they could continue to manipulate you, and to realize that you are so much more than that. And it's a very, very difficult journey. I'm like 5 years removed, 6 years removed from that type of thing, and it still gets me sometimes. Like, there's still certain things that like I don't, when I'm thinking them, it's still not my voice that I'm hearing. You know what I mean? Or there's things that happen and I'm like, oh, this isn't me. This isn't me that's like thinking or feeling this way. This is like implanted in me. And it's taken me obviously like 5, 6 years, 10, 15 years, right? Depending on what type of thing we're talking about here, for me to get to the point where I can recognize when it's like my own voice versus somebody else's voice that I've internalized. I hope that makes sense, and it might not, and that's fine if it doesn't. I hope to God, if you're listening to this, that nothing that I have said in the last 5 minutes makes any sense to you. But if it does, I would just like to say this book was really good in that way, to see somebody who went through something similar, see them healing and finding a partner that like goes above and beyond to help them work through their issues and like figure out who they want to be, right? Like they as an individual, Scotty as an individual wants to be, and like helps and supports her in such a beautiful way. In that way, this book was phenomenal, in my opinion. Also, if you related to this book, if you related to anything that I've said in the last 5 minutes, me to you directly, full eye contact right now if you're visual, you are better than all of the negative things that person said to you, that person did to you, that person made you believe about yourself. Be it, again, a parent, a partner, a whoever in your life. You are above and beyond any of that. And it might not feel like it. What happened to you, if it made you feel bad, if it made you whatever, your experience is valid. Your feelings are valid. The things that you are going through, even though you can't maybe quantify them or measure them or have some like physical evidence of them, is valid. And I hope and like send you all the best vibes for your healing, to find peace and happiness and joy. And I want you in your absolute core to know that you deserve that. So anyway, back to the book. He carries her back to their cabin, and when they show up at the cabin, it is filled to the brim with like toys and lubricant and like all kinds of stuff. Like she refers to it as like a dungeon. Like it is absolutely insane the amount of things that are in here. And she has always been very, very self-conscious of that side of things in a relationship. Like her ex-husband did not treat her well or respect her or like help her explore that side of her in any way. And so she's incredibly inexperienced. That was her only partner that she's ever had. And so there's this piece of her that is, she describes it as prudish, right? She's very just standoffish of anything sexual, and it's very like, just makes her uncomfortable. And so she is like, okay, this is insane. Everything happening here is insane. This retreat is insane. Like I want to like GTFO as soon as possible. And they end up finding like a menu, basically, like a sex menu where they can go through, and it has like the pricing listed for all of the different stuff in the cabin if you happen to use it. And so Wilder is like, oh my God, this is just a huge like selling point. Like he's not even here trying to help people's marriages. He's just getting a huge cut of profit by selling them like things for their relationship. Like this is absolutely crazy. This is like a freaking, what is an MLM? Multi-layer marketing or something? Oh no, what does it stand for? Yeah, it's like the multi-level marketing or some crazy thing like that. He's like, this is not a legitimate person. This is not a legitimate retreat. This is like gross what's happening right now, right? In chapter 10, it's still her kind of coping with the insanity that is this camp, and they end up going to dinner that night. And now that she knows what she knows, and she knows what's in these cabins, she assumes all of the cabins are filled to the brim with this like paraphernalia, we'll say. Wilder picks up that she's feeling uncomfortable at dinner, and he's been taking care of her so well since this accident, which has been not boggling her mind necessarily, but it's more and more making her realize how much that her husband had mistreated her previously and how caring and attentive that Wilder is. And so at dinner, when he catches on that she's feeling uncomfortable. Oh, and that's the other thing too. So at the cabin, when he realized how like uncomfortable she was with all of the stuff around, they hid everything in drawers and they put it all away. And he was like, don't worry, like I'll sleep in a sleeping bag on the floor. Like I don't want to make you uncomfortable. Like he's doing everything right in this situation. Other than just being like a general like kind of horn dog, the minute that he realized that made her uncomfortable, he knocked it off, and he has been very, very respectful since then. And even when he was being a horn dog, it felt jokingly, you know what I mean? It didn't feel predatory, and it didn't feel like he was like coming on too strong. It just felt like that was his sense of humor, his style of humor. And it's just good. He's just a good man, which I feel like I don't ever say in these books, right? dinner time comes around. Like I've said 8 times now, I promise I'll actually get to the point. He distracts her, right? He wants to talk to her about other things and try and take her mind off of everything that is going on. And so at dinner, you know, he pulls out her chair for her and she's like, hey, you're supposed to be being mean to me right now. Like, you can't be pulling out my chair. And like, we just fought earlier. That was the whole thing that we sold these people, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh crap, sorry. It's a habit. You know, I'm just pretty much like, he's such a gentleman, right? Like, he got raised right. And so it's very, very hard for him to break these like ingrained habits. And so when he sits down next to her, he says, I mean, I don't think it's a big deal that I pulled out your chair. We might not be getting along, but I don't have to be an asshole and not pull out my wife's chair for her. And we got back to the fact, sorry, we're totally breaking character right now. Personally, one of my things in books is the whole, like, my wife. I don't know why, and I don't know what it is that I'm like such a sucker for a man being like my wife. I don't know. I don't want to talk about it. So yeah, pull out my wife's chair for her. True, I say, and then I pick up my menu. For a 27-year-old, that habit surprises me. Or 27-year-olds supposed to be assholes? I don't know, but with my experience, I would say they're more self-absorbed than anything. Your experience, huh? You care to elaborate? Not really. But seriously, when did you start pulling out chairs and opening doors and things like that? Ever since I was young. My mom was adamant about me and Micah being gentlemen. We took turns opening doors for her and pulling out her chairs. She said she didn't want to be the reason her sons didn't treat their partners right later in life. You have a good mom. I do, he says softly. I know a little bit about Wilder's family situation to know what that look on his face means. Micah and Wilder's mom is an absolute rock. She worked as a paralegal, took care of the boys, made sure to get them to all of their events, and took care of their dad, who was in a terrible car accident when they were teenagers. It left him a quadriplegic, which led to some darker moments in the family. And then when Micah was in college, their dad passed away. It was tough on all of them, including the mom. So they go on to have like other discussions about dinner and what they want to order. The camp counselor comes out and there's a little bit more just kind of like, you know, this whole campy type discussions and greetings and everything like that. Chapter 11, we continue the camp shenanigans, and Wilder is realizing how little that he knows about Scotty and how much that he is like intrigued by her. And the more and more that they talk about her past, the more and more that like he's just wondering and he just wants to know. They talk a little bit more about, you know, sex or their like supposed sex life while all of these events are happening, or while all of these like camp events are happening. It's very intense. Like I said, for somebody who identifies as a prude and for somebody who like doesn't feel comfortable or confident in their, not in their sexuality, but like in expressing their, you know, attraction and like whatever. This is a complete 180 for Scotty. And so she's just very kind of like put off by Sanders, put off by all these couples. She says that they're weird. And Wilder realizes that Scotty has never used a like sex toy before. And so that's like a whole thing. And again, he offers like, hey, when we go to sleep, we can sleep with like a barricade between us. It's fine. Don't worry. Like he genuinely, again, like he's trying to be respectful. And at one point when they're going to sleep, there's this beeping that happens in the cabin, and she immediately thinks that they're being recorded. And she's like, they're going to try to force us to, you know, be intimate. They're recording it, blah, blah, blah. Starts like freaking out. He goes around searching. He finds an iPad in a drawer somewhere, and it's actually a link to some X-rated content videos for them to watch. It was like a reward or whatever, like pushed by the camp to like help them bond or something. She's like, yeah, we're not watching that. And he's like, well, what if we watch it separately? And she's still like does not entertain this idea at all. And so when we go into chapter 12, Scotty is awake all night, just contemplating life, how uncomfortable that she is with all of this stuff around, and realizing how unbothered Wilder is, how confident that he is with all of this, and how it's something that she wishes that she were. You know, this is where she goes on to kind of reflect about her relationship with Matt and how much he did not like tend to her needs. And so it led to this insecurity of her insecurity of her body, insecurity of her desires. And so it's made her a prude, right? Again, I hate that word. I hate that that's like how I have to describe it, but that's like the most maybe appropriate word for the situation, and it's the one that they use in the book, but you know what I'm saying. I'm not trying to be like offensive, and I don't mean it in a derogatory way at all, but that's what it is. She feels just very clammed up about what's happening. They have another, relationship counseling appointment with Sanders where they're out of sync of what they say to him versus what was said on the intake forms, because they just hadn't practiced and like discussed these things in detail. So they get into this fake argument in front of Sanders, and it's not really fake. Like, again, this is kind of what I had mentioned earlier. It's more of projection on Scotty's end of her openly complaining and talking about issues that she experienced in her marriage with Matt. And then Wilder, in his improv, is just kind of like feeding off of this and bouncing back with her. And so it ends up just being her like letting all of this out. And it gets to a point where even the therapist, Sanders, he's like, okay, this is enough. Like, y'all need to chill. You need to go take a break. You guys might be too far gone, kind of thing. So they go to leave. They get into a little bit more of an argument, kind of on their way back to the cabin, and she's upset because Wilder fed into all of these things in such a way that made her look like a lunatic because, right, their intake forms looked so different that now she looked like a liar and she was just being like a little crazy head about stuff. He ends up saying a comment back to her along the lines of, you were so good in there, it's almost like you were in marriage counseling before. And that's what snaps her out of it, where she realizes that it wasn't improv for her and that she was actually projecting her previous relationship. And it like kind of snaps something in her a little bit, this realization. So she storms out of the cabin and she goes to try and find some like alone time, like very, very visibly upset running out of this cabin in this moment. And so in chapter 13, Wilder, what do? Right? She's very emotional. We just got in a fight. She ran off. He goes to the payphone. That's all they have, right? They had to turn in their cell phones earlier. The only like contact to the outer world that they have is a payphone that's monitored. So he goes to it and he calls Micah, right? His brother, her best friend, expresses his concern about Scotty, and Micah tells him about her divorce. She had never come out about it. She had never told him directly that she had been divorced. And so Wilder, hearing this news, pieces it together about why she is the way that she is and why she reacted the way that she did, and now he feels even more guilty. God bless this poor man, trying to do everything that he can, and somehow just like doing the worst thing possible, right? But at least he feels guilt, right? At least he has empathy. Jesus, the bar is in hell that I'm excited that a millionaire has empathy, that a man has empathy. What kind of world are we living in, right? But it is what it is. And so he feels bad. He wants to make it up to her. So he goes like searching around the camp to try to find her. While doing so, he runs into Chad. Chad talks mad shit because he's like, you lost your wife. He ignores it. He moves on. And he finds Scotty out crying by the lake. He sits down next to her and he's apologizing, saying that he didn't know that she was divorced. And, I'm sorry for going overboard during therapy. And she's just sobbing. Right. So he like holds her while she cries and gets all of this out of her system. And he promises to never lie to her and, to like be her support throughout the camp, through the rest of camp and everything like that. Like they're on one team, basically, is what he says. He's like, we're in this together. I'm sorry for upsetting you. We can do this though. Okay. Like we got this. They go back to the cabin, they get ready, they go to dinner that night. And at dinner, they get the itinerary for the following day. And the therapist has scheduled them to spend the day alone in the cabin due to their like sensitive situation. In general, they're there for a sensitive reason. And then also they just got in this like crazy big argument in his office. And so the therapist is like, okay, you two, just stay in the cabin by yourselves, try to figure it out. Okay. So they do. They're talking about it and they're like considering leaving. Scotty's like, I don't know what I want to do anymore. This seems so messy and stupid and this just feels like such a waste of time and blah, blah, blah. And Wilder says, I'll support you with whatever you want to do. But staying might be helpful. Like going to therapy, like it genuinely, like this is pretty therapeutic and it might actually help you. We're not maybe in therapy for our relationship, but kind of like mentioned earlier, like you can continue to project your past trauma and your past issues and work through it with the therapist and these activities and whatever, and like try to find peace through this like situation. Like this might be beneficial. And it convinces her. So she decides to stay. So when we go into chapter 14, we're in Scotty's POV and they're getting kind of a game plan together of how they're going to tackle the rest of camp. now that they are solidly like one team, one fight, we'll figure this out together. Obviously, she has been carrying a little bit of guilt about keeping the secret of her divorce and the reason she's here and the reason that she's been so like standoffish with Wilder. But she's happy because now that she said it out loud and it's like the air has been cleared, there's like a weight has been lifted off of her, right? And so the next day when they go to the lake for this like group couples activity thing, they end up kicking ass, actually. So during this couples activity, there's like commenting back and forth to each other, and she ends up complimenting his physique, and then he compliments her legs, and she immediately like blurts out about how her legs are stumpy and her knees are weird looking. And it's something that Matt had told her once. Then again, if you happened to hear the rant earlier and you didn't skip it, it was one of those things that her ex-husband had said to her that has stuck with her forever. And Wilder says, do not take other people's flawed opinions about you and turn them into your own, which is exactly what I was saying earlier. What an incredibly validating thing to hear, right? Just because somebody said it about you doesn't mean that it's true. Don't take it as gospel. Don't turn that into your own opinion about yourself. Like, it's not true. So they continue to go through this experience. You know, they're like asking and answering questions and like blah, blah, blah. Ultimately, they end up winning, right? Chad accuses them of cheating because he's just a bitter little bitch. And the therapist says that they'll receive a reward later, but now they have to go to like all of the couples have to go to therapy sessions to like review the answers and the discussions that they've had, you know, during this like series of events or whatever, right? In chapter 15, Wilder's POV, they get back to the cabin and the prize that they won for winning the previous competition. They get their nerd clusters back, and they just immediately begin like going ham, just like eating the ever-living crap out of these nerd clusters, which is low-key kind of cute. And at therapy, Sanders notes how their teamwork is a strength in their relationship. Communication, though, is very clearly a big issue in their relationship, and it's something that they need to work on if they want it to survive. And so his solution for you guys needing to work on your communication involves Scotty straddling Wilder and having a conversation that way. She's just like on top of him, like face to face, like having a little conversation. Oh, I mean, maybe, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a therapist, but I also feel like I wouldn't want to straddle my partner in front of a third party to talk about our feelings. I don't know. I've never been to like this type of marriage counseling, so I don't know what I'm talking about, but it just feels weird. But they go through this exercise. Obviously, Wilder picks up that Scotty's uncomfortable, so they continue to, you know, he comforts her, and they have these conversations. And again, continues to be her like unloading stuff from her past and him being supportive. Which, to be frank, there could not be better qualities in a man, right? Like this is very clearly. So often whenever I do these like romance reviews, I feel like it is actually written by a man. This is very, very, very clearly a man written by a woman, and not a woman writing to like the man's gaze, or like a man pretending to be a woman author to sell more books or whatever, which is just a conspiracy theory. This is very clearly much a like, you know, women, a perfect man written from like a woman's point of view. Obviously, I'm using binary gender for the ease of explanation, but you understand what I'm saying. Cut to chapter 16. They're going to dinner. All the coworkers are there. Afterward, they go to a little bonfire. They make some s'mores. Scotty does not want to go. Wilder convinces her. He says, everything will be fine. We'll have a good time. We've got to do this. And the whole time, Chad is yet again being very like accusatory of them about how their relationship is fake and stupid, and that Wilder is lying, and their relationship doesn't seem authentic. And even Brad, like the other guys in the group, are telling him to lay off, and he just does not do it. He literally just keeps pressing them about it, and how pissed off he is because they're having a fake relationship, but they ended in the best cabin, because I guess the particular cabin that they're in is like, what is this referred to? The red cabin or something? Yeah, whatever, this coveted cabin that they ended up in with all the extra paraphernalia. So Wilder, he says, oh, goes into their cabin, collects all of the like, you know, items, all of the paraphernalia from the cabin, and brings it out to the bonfire and like pretty much like throws it at everybody, like at all of the rest of the group, and saying that like, oh, you guys obviously need it more than Scotty and I do. I love a man who stands up for a woman. And while she internally is like appreciative of this gesture, she's also really like embarrassed about it. And they have this like pretty extended argument. And again, I just want to emphasize how much dialogue there is in this book. Obviously, I'm cutting it out for the sake of time. I'm cutting it out for like a lot of reasons. It is genuinely such good dialogue. And I know when I first started this review, I was kind of making fun of it. And low key, I was like, oh, this is kind of cringy. This is like so millennial. Once you get past the certain parts of it that like scream millennial ick, again, I say with love as a almost 30-year-old, it's like really well written, genuine like discussions and stuff. It's so weird. I'm literally having like an existential crisis about how much I like this book. I didn't want to like this book. I did not want to like this book, and I do, and I feel like about it, you know? So anyway, it's very much this back and forth about the situation with Chad and Brad, Chads and Brad and Chads, Brads and Chads, whatever the fuck, and him throwing the toys. And they go back to the cabin, and they're having this argument, and she says, you embarrassed me. I yell, causing him to pull back. What you did was unnecessary, okay? It was just not needed. I take that stuff from them all the time. It's why they're the Brads and Chad. And this might be all fun and games and improv to you, but this is my real life. I have to go back to work with them. And they're gonna see me knowing that I'm the girl with the husband who is handing out pictures of nipples and dildos to my coworkers. That was embarrassing. He twists his lips to the side, and after a few seconds, he says, I'm sorry you see it that way. I see it differently. And with that, he turns away from me and tucks his hands under his pillow, signaling that this conversation is over. His back is towards me, and there's silence. It all feels so real, so familiar that I might turn away from him as well and turn out my light on my nightstand. My stomach churns with insecurity. It feels like we just had our first genuine fight. And I guess the other thing to emphasize that I do want to take from their conversation was they were fighting over the fact of him saying he was protecting her and her saying, you weren't protecting me, you were protecting your pride. It's like it's very, again, just like realistic. I don't know, man. I don't know. Don't look at me like that. As we go into chapter 17, they have another like follow-up therapy appointment with the Sanders guy. And this time they don't want to talk. They are completely, like I said, we just had their first real fight. Neither of them want to engage. The therapist says, okay, let's work on your communication skills. Let's do the communication exercise again. You know, Scotty, get up on his lap. And she refuses and ends up to force them to have communication. Sanders like takes them into the middle of the lake on like a canoe kayak thing and then takes the oars away so that they're like forced to be in the middle of this lake together, without their phones or anything, right? So they just have to deal with this. And instead of working through it, Wilder jumps into the water and swims to shore. And so then Sanders says, okay, well, drops them off in the middle of the woods with just a tent and supplies for the night. And then they end up like arguing incessantly over how to properly assemble the tent. Obviously, like continuing to blame each other throughout the entire experience about like whose fault it is that they're here and like who's messing up the tent worst and like yada yada. In chapter 18, they get the tent assembled. They get the little fire made. They got through it. So they start to have a little bit of conversation. Scotty apologizes for yet again projecting her emotions and or projecting her like past relationship trauma onto this situation. He acknowledges her feelings and he says, you know, I'm also sorry. I'm sorry for embarrassing you, and like genuinely apologizing. And it really kind of like catches her off guard because she's never known a man that has had such a level of like self-awareness and who has been so caring as he has been. And she's kind of realizing in that moment how much he does listen to her and genuinely cares about her and wants her to, you know, be happy and thrive, right, and enjoy things. And so he admits to, you know, all these improv stories. Like I said, he's just a little horn dog. All of these improv stories that he's had or that he's made up has like somehow had something to do with like his crazy sex life. And so he, you know, talks about it a little bit with her and saying how, like, yeah, I've done those things, but it has to be with somebody that I have like a genuine emotional connection with, or like I can't sleep with them. She admits in this moment that her ex-husband was her only partner. Obviously, this ends up turning into a one bed trope where it's a one sleeping bag trope, and so they end up like sleeping cuddled up together. Tension, tension, tension. They're realizing how attracted that they are to each other in that moment, and you know, he calls her stunning, that everything about her is just amazing. It ends up being a bunch of like compliments and touchy-feely, and it doesn't really go past touchy-feely. But the whole time he's like asking for consent as he like moves his hand around her body, and they talk more and more emotionally. And it's just like a very tender, tension building, romantic moment. It's very slow burn in a way that doesn't read as slow burn, but feels as slow burn. Like, as overtly sexual as this book is, and as the situation that they're in is, it still feels so innocent and like just building to something. The next morning, they wake up and there's some little, again, just continued tension between the two of them and a little bit of banter and whatnot that results in her saying that he's pretty good at snuggling. Now, there's a compliment. That's something to keep in mind. Maybe something to put on the dating profile. If I ever join one of those apps, I would. You haven't been on them? No. Just, I don't know. I haven't really thought about being with anyone. And I feel like people who go on the apps, at least the right people, are looking for a relationship, you know? And I don't want to do them a disservice by not wanting to be in a relationship. Ever? She asks. No, not ever. Just, I guess, when I'm ready. Not to pry, but, you know, we've talked a lot about me, so it's your turn. When do you think you'll be ready? I don't know. I answer as I start rolling up the sleeping bag. I think when everything just seems right, if that makes sense. Can I ask what that means? Well, with Micah, I want him to be comfortable, mentally healthy. I feel like if I have some baggage where my mom is concerned, and with my dad's death and his accident, there are some things to unpack there. I thought you said baggage wasn't a bad thing. It's not. It's really not, but I haven't really dealt with my own baggage, so how can I inflict that on someone who wants to be in a relationship with me, you know? I understand that. Micah said your mom cheated on your dad. I'm sorry, I don't know why I said that. It was a dark moment for him when he told me. I pause, my limbs going still as the words float around us, just out there in the world. Words I try to ignore, to suppress, because it's such a up situation. My dad was in a horrible car accident that left him quadriplegic. It was tough on everyone, especially my mom, who had to work extra hours to pay for his home care and then come home and take care of us. She was stressed. She didn't have my father the way that she used to. And one night, after hearing my mom on the phone with someone clearly making time to meet her, Micah followed her to our dad's best friend's place. He saw them kiss in the front doorway, and from what looked like clothes coming off quickly, he surmised the rest, and she owned up to it when she got home. So obviously, this is a turning point in their relationship, right? Because she's obviously been very, very open about her divorce and the way that she's feeling from that and how she's coping and working through it. And then now he's open about his relationship hesitations, primarily seeing, it's not a bad example, but seeing like the way that his parents' romantic relationship was impacted by life's tragedies, the way that his brother Micah is going through some like mental health issues, coping with everything that has happened recently. They're just like not necessarily in the best places to be in relationships, and they understand each other, and they understand these very like complicated, isolation-y type feelings that they're both going through. So it's a great bonding moment. They hug. Wilder wants to kiss her, but he doesn't want to send confusing messages because he literally just said that he's not wanting to be in a relationship with anybody. So instead they just hug. And there's, again, this like tension building between the two of them as they go on to the next like couples relationship building event thing. It's a lot of compliments back and forth with each other. Ultimately, this event ends up with the both of them like full on making out. Everybody does like, you know, like the wolf whistles and like the, oh my God, this is so crazy. Like, this is so, like it's like steamy, right? Everybody's seeing that they thawed the icy exterior of their relationship. Maybe not for the reasons that are real, but everybody's picking up that something shifted, right? And there's like a lot of tension between the two of them. By the end of the event, Scotty gets really awkward about it. Maybe a little bit of regret, maybe a little bit of in the moment, whatever. So she runs off to the bathroom, trying to act like this whole makeout session didn't happen. And then Wilder is just sitting there, like just considering their situationship, I guess this would be. I guess that's probably the best word for what happens between them. And so in chapter 20, she runs, she's like going to the bathroom, and then she like runs to the payphone to call Denise, her best friend, one of the people from the beginning chapters, to ask for advice. You know, Scotty's gushing about kissing him and how great it was. And Denise is like, oh, you have a crush on him. And like, you just need to enjoy it, dude. Like, stop making it weird. And Scotty's like, I'm not trying to make it weird, but also like, what about Micah? I don't want him to think, I don't want it to be weird. Like, he's my best friend. I don't want to date his brother and have it be strange. And Denise is like, no, dude, he definitely expected you guys to like each other and hook up and stuff. This wasn't an accident that he just happened to like set you up with his brother. Like, it's for a reason. And that was all the permission she needed. She ends up going back to dinner. There's some card game stuff going on. She continues to try to play hard to get. We'll say, quote unquote, hard to get. But really, it's just her hiding or trying to be like nonchalant about how turned on she is and how much she wants Wilder. But it sends mixed messages to him, because to him, he's perceiving this as like, oh, she just wants to act like it never happened. She regretted us kissing. She doesn't want me, blah, blah, blah. And he ends up like getting frustrated and just like storms out. And so in chapter 21, now it's his turn to phone a friend and ask what to do. And so he calls Micah. He calls his brother, her best friend. And of course, Micah and Denise talked. And so he says, yeah, Scotty's literally so into you, dude. She told Denise what was going on and how the kiss had her, quote, throbbing. And Micah's like, no, dude, seriously, I always planned on introducing you two when the time was right, but you both were just going through so much stuff that like, it wasn't there. But yes, please, like, go after her. You guys are both great. Like, just, you know, go find the happiness and whatnot that you deserve. And this was the exact permission that Wilder needed to like pursue a relationship and to pursue Scotty without this like weird kind of like guilt cloud thing like hanging over him. Okay, great. Goes back to the card game, collects Scotty. They go back to the cabin. The rest is history. Full on hookup that we get like 70% of the way through the book. Truly a slow burn that I have not experienced since the All Roads Here by Zapata. What is her name? It's not Maria. Mariana. Oh my God, what is her name? Yeah, Mariana Zapata. All Roads Lead Here. I have not experienced a slow burn like that since I read that book. I love the tension. This is so hot. And so in chapter 22, like after they hook up and they have this like whole experience, a whole detailed experience, she cries a little. It's a very like emotional experience for her. And it's kind of also stemming from the fact that she's like, this is what I could have had, right? Like I stayed with my husband and I stayed in this really bad relationship for like so long, and like this is what it feels like to actually be loved and cared for. Like I could have been experiencing this the whole time. And that's another one that is like so relatable in a really terrible way, where you're just like, frick, dude. Maybe not for the exact same reasons, but in that sense of like, wow, I could have been happy. Wow, I could have, you know, experienced all of these other things, and instead I was in this relationship. And again, this goes back to this whole like guilt thing that you carry if you're in a relationship like that. And it's hard to not feel guilty, but it's not your fault. You had no control over it. You didn't know any better. You were like manipulated or whatever, and like you did the best you could with the information you had. Point blank period. You cannot be upset with yourself overdoing what you had to do to survive and overdoing what you had to do to be as happy as you could with the circumstances that you were given. The fact that you can look back and like feel guilty or feel that it could have been better, that's a good sign. And you should take it as such. And that should be like a wow, I made it type moment, not a filling with guilt moment. And I hope that you hear that and you understand that if you relate to that idea. But they express their feelings a little bit. They end up banging again before the next therapy, couple session, whatever thing that they go off and do. Their task is to plan a date to go on or something. So they go up to the camp office to look at some of the different things that they offer. They run into Chad. Chad is yet again just talking mad crap in this particular time, he's like, says something about the Diet Coke not being good and kind of brings up the idea of that soda tracker. Hello? The soda tracker app that Wilder developed. And they're like, oh shit, he knows who we are. He at least knows who Wilder is. Maybe he's caught on to us. This is like a terrible situation. And so she starts like fretting quite a bit. And Wilder's just like done with Chad being disrespectful and rude. And so they just kind of like storm off and move on with life. Wilder ends up picking them to go on like a tandem bicycle date, and in chapter 23 that's exactly what they're doing. It's super cute. They go on a little bicycle ride to go and get some ice cream, and they have a lot more conversation. You know, he opens up about his tattoos and his piercings and his emotions after his father's death, and handling, you know, Micah, and how therapy has helped both of them, but Micah has like continued to struggle, and he is having a hard time, he being Wilder, is having a hard time moving on with his life until he knows that Micah is safe and that Micah is like mentally healthy, because if he needs to be there to support his brother. Scotty also opens up, and she's saying how much that this retreat has helped her cope with her past relationship, and, you know, she's feeling happy and coming to terms with a lot of things and like wanting to be open to a relationship, but she's afraid of getting hurt again. Right. And then so Wilder's justification, Wilder's discussion also, that's kind of what it ended with, was when he's talking about wanting to know that Micah's going to be okay. That was kind of his reasoning for not being in a relationship. Scotty's reasoning for not being in a relationship is the not wanting to get hurt again. And he says, okay, like I respect it. Like I care for you. Like I would never hurt you like that. And they ride the bicycle back to the cabin and they bone yet again. As we go into chapter 24, we are 6 chapters. We're 6 chapters away from this book being over, guys. This is so cute. In chapter 24, Wilder helps Scotty create a ball and chain free bucket list, and it's a list of all of the things that Matt never wanted to do with her, like going to the movies, getting caught on a kiss cam, skinny dipping, and taking a boat ride through Central Park. Wilder says, yes ma'am, we will check everything off that list. Again, the way that this is a man written for a woman is crazy. This is so hot. And also, kind of speaking of this, unrelated, related, whatever you want to call this right now, I've had a couple of people ask for like book recommendations. A book that this just made me think of is called The Birthday List by Devney Perry. Is that what it's called? Or Devney Perry? You might know her because she wrote a book that is really, really popular right now called Shield of Sparrows. It's like the trending like fantasy romantasy bullshit that's happening right now. She wrote this book called Birthday List back in 2018, and it is about this like widowed woman who is going through her husband's bucket list that he had written out. And she ends up like meeting, I think it's a cop that's trying to solve her husband's murder. And he ends up ultimately like helping her go through this list. And it's so like tender and heartwarming. And it's a really beautiful discussion and expression of like grief and working through that was so gorgeous. And I so badly want to read Shield of Sparrows now because I know what her like traditional romance books looks like. So that's on my list. Like that's on my TBR so hard because Birthday List was genuinely just so wholesome. I don't know, man. It was just so well written. And in like a not I don't want to say well written because I read it like 2 years ago before I had read as many books as I have by this point. But you know what I mean? It left a lasting impression on me, and this book made me think of that. So if you want to read some depressing shit about a widow trying to move on afterwards, it's very, very good. In my opinion, remembering it from 2 years ago, hopefully that's true. Take that as a grain of salt, I guess is what I'm saying. I hate giving recommendations because I feel like it feels so vulnerable. And then if I say that and you read it and you hate it, I would like be embarrassed. You know what I mean? So like I might cut this from the video. I might not. Who knows? Whatever. So either way, they create her like ball and chain bucket list. Super cute, right? So they get this figured out. The next like couples activity thing that they end up doing is making caricatures of each other. Obviously, Wilder is like an art student, right? He went to Yale, Princeton, some Ivy League. I don't remember. He went to some Ivy League school. Maybe. Am I making that up? NYU? Where did he go? I don't give a fuck. So he went to college for an art thing. So he's very like artistically inclined. His caricature is beautiful. Hers is not. It's like kind of embarrassingly bad. And Chad, this little prick, is of course immediately the first one to tell her as much and says that it's ugly. And she snaps back. She's surprised by snapping back, and so is Wilder. And Wilder is like, hey, it's kind of hot. Like, hey, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. And also, it's kind of fucking hot, which I love. I love a mean beezy. Yeah, we're not getting into it. We're not going to unpack that statement. So chapter 25, Wilder, yet again, we're cutting to like another camp activity. It's another couples thing. And this time they're having to make a cocktail that represents their relationship. Obviously, they got Micah. Micah's a bartender, right? So they know what they're getting into, and they decided they're going to do it. Like, we have to win. They've won the last 2 or 3 challenges, and they have to do this one just to like prove to whoever, maybe low-key, wink wink, partially themselves, but also to the other people. And also they're competitive. They want to win. They make this, they do win, and they get their prize, and it's a blanket near the lake accompanied with wine and chocolate, and also a box of sex toys. Which, this is in one of those moments, again, a man written by a woman. Scotty's a little, not off put by it, but she's like intimidated. And so he goes through and like explains what each of these things do and like what purpose each of these toys serve to like help her, you know, kind of like not be intimidated. I said, oh. And then they go skinny dipping. They cross that off of her bucket list. And yet again, they bang, okay? They bang in the lake, and it's something that Wilder had never done, so this is like a big deal, because he too is checking things off of his list, okay? I don't know what you want from me, bro. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what you want from me, okay? In chapter 26, Scotty wakes up in the cabin. She doesn't remember how she got there, because obviously they had a little drink the night before. But he offers to make her breakfast. They talk about future plans at the cabin. Also, she kind of wants to leave, though, because he said the whole thing about not wanting to have a relationship. And she, you know, expresses these fears to him about, like, you don't even want to have a relationship. Obviously, like, I'm afraid to take this serious or, like, let these feelings develop for you if, like, you're not wanting to actually, like, be here and, like, do this, you know? And, like, it's so easy to get feelings and do all of this when we're at this Camp Haven thing. But what about when we go back to real life? And like, real life is going to complicate everything. And I'm just like, she's like, I'm scared. Okay. That's it. That's all there is really to say about it, is she's just scared. He, you know, tries to reassure her, saying that like he's going to make the relationship a priority. Scotty is obviously still apprehensive about this and ends up like crying and like running out of the room or something. For some reason, Chad comes around and opens up that the reason he's been so mean and like aggressive toward them this entire time is because he and his wife are struggling with like infertility issues. And so he's just like angry and taking it out on other people. And so then Scotty like feels bad for him. And it's this whole other thing. And he ends up like encouraging her to, you know, keep an open mind. And then she reveals that their whole relationship is fake and Chad was right about it to begin with. And then there's just a huge bonding moment, I guess, is what I'm supposed to get out of this like situation, right? He promises that he'll keep it a secret though, and he won't tell Ellison or Sanders or anybody about what's happening. And he hopes that they're able to work through it, because obviously there is something actually between Scotty and Wilder. This does not stop Scotty from then, however, feeling guilty and revealing to Sanders and Ellison and the entire group about their relationship being fake. And she apologizes for making a mockery of this wedding retreat. And it's the same thing where Sanders says that like what they have is real, and you know, whether or not they want to admit it, and they probably should admit it, but like some feelings have definitely developed between you guys. Like Scotty, Wilder, it might have started fake, but very clearly there is something real here, and like you just need to admit it. And so they do, in front of this entire group of people, in front of this like couples counseling session that they're in. Scotty shares her apprehension of like not wanting to get hurt. And Sanders says, Wilder, will you hurt her? Sanders says, I don't want to. And that doubt, that like hesitation and like not completely 100% affirmative that he will not hurt her is enough to like put the nail in the coffin that she can't take that risk. Like her heart can't take it. She can't do it. In chapter 27, Wilder realizes immediately how much he done goofed in that moment, because Scotty storms out and goes to immediately pack her things and leave this retreat, which, hey, respect. I would literally do the exact same. Scotty ends up like storming away to go and pack her things, and Sanders asks Wilder to stay back so that they can talk. And Sanders helps Wilder realize that the core of his issue with commitment stems from the idea that he would not be able to care for Scotty and Micah, and how much that Micah means the world to him, and he just wants to be there for his brother and to support him and care for him. And he's like, it's just not fair. And it's the same things that we kind of said earlier in passing, but now we get this like really direct realization of that. And so Sanders says, okay, so how about you talk to Micah then? Like, how about you openly communicate with Micah about how much that, not that you've given up to support him, because that's like kind of a fucked up thing to say, but talk to Micah about how you're feeling and how much you want him to be okay and like blah, blah, blah. And then like try to get on the same page with him so that you can move on, because it's ultimately like, it isn't Wilder's responsibility, right? Like taking on the emotions of other people and protecting them in such a way of these like fellow adults and whatever. It does not fall on him. And this is a crazy realization. And if you were an elder sibling, you also understand this crazy realization. So he goes back to the cabin. He runs into Scotty and he promises her that he will be all in after he takes care of something important. And he gives her his nerd clusters as a sign of his devotion. So we cut back to the city. Wilder is talking to Micah and is explaining to Micah about, you know, this trip coming to an abrupt end, and pushing Micah to kind of open up about his therapy and the grief and the anger, and Micah validating that like he is okay. Therapy is helping, and even though he might not be ready to see their mom quite yet, he thinks that he might be able to one day, and that he is trying to improve his life, right? He's going to take some classes to like become, like currently he's bartending, but he's going to like take some more classes and get some like additional certifications or whatever so that he can get into like a higher paying job. And Micah reiterates or iterates, I guess, how much that he does not want Wilder to put his life on hold for him. Okay? This is great news, right? We're moving in a positive direction. When we go into chapter 28, we're in Scotty's POV. Scotty has been low-key kind of spiraling since returning from camp. So Denise is texting her and like begging her to get out and go and do something, and like, you know, putting herself out there and like whatever. When she hears a knock at the door, she assumes it's Denise that's about to like drag her outside, but instead it's Wilder. And he wants to take her to the movies, right? He's trying to check off things from her bucket list, from her ball and chain bucket list, right? She, you know, invites him inside, but before they go on the date, she has to call Denise and Micah to get advice, which this is the part that kind of pissed me off. Like, I'm glad, again, we're back to the point of, I love solid support networks. I love people who can talk to people. I love the side character development. I love whatever. But then we get into certain moments, and I don't know if it's maybe because like I don't have a friendship like this, that like I don't find this relatable. But this was a moment where I said, girl, get up. Do you want to go on a date with him or not? Why the fuck do you need permission from like these other people? They've literally already told you their opinion. They've all said he's a great guy. What exactly are you like seeking out here right now? This is so weird to me. And this is the part where like it really pissed me off. All the rest of it I could write off or relate to in a way that like made me excuse some of the cringy behavior. But this one just like irritated the shit out of me. But obviously Denise and Micah, both of them are like, oh yeah, no, like we get why you're hesitant to trust him, but also like you should. He's a safe guy. He's a good guy. Like you have to stop letting your ex-husband control your future and like let him like cloud your judgments and whatnot. Okay, cool. So her and Wilder, they watch a movie together. And before the movie begins, they have some discussion, and he talks about Micah taking care of himself and how it's not his responsibility, right? And he's slowly opening up about this whole thing of the, you know, I'm trying to be a better person and be the right guy for you, which also includes, I want you to trust the process so that I can prove my commitment to you. She says, oh, okay. He asks her what the most disappointing aspect of her marriage was. And she says that her ex-husband had never complimented her, complimented her physical appearance. Noted. Chapter 29. We only have 3 chapters left. This is so crazy. Sorry. In chapter 29, she's going to see Wilder. And I'm blushing. She's wearing this tank top, whatever, and he's reflecting on how cute she looked and how her face was so red from the heat of her apartment. And he says, I told her that I was going to buy her, or he's thinking, I told her that I was going to buy her another AC unit, but she told me not to. I considered disobeying, but I figured that she had probably got enough of that from Matt. So I practiced restraint and I listened, but fuck, it was hard because I don't like seeing her uncomfortable. I love a man who loves a woman, and I love a woman being spoiled. And I love a woman, well, I love women, but I love a man who respects a woman enough to put that aside to be obedient. Anyway, she shows up. He's hitting on her. Also, he's been calling her Pips. I don't want to talk about it. I've been skipping a lot of the names. I've been skipping the cringy stuff just to tell you the good parts of the story, okay? Don't judge me, okay? I'm skipping the cringy stuff intentionally. So she shows up because he's going to take her to a baseball game. And wouldn't you know it, behind the scenes, this man has secretly plotted with Sanders to get some connections to ensure that they ended up on the kiss cam. Turns out Wilder has been going to weekly therapy sessions with Sanders to discuss Scotty's relationship with Matt, her ex-husband, and how she has been negatively impacted by it, and what Wilder can do to be a supportive partner in helping her heal from said relationship. Oh, in chapter 29 too, so they had been taking or somewhere, I don't know, whatever. He had signed them up for cooking classes, 6 weeks of cooking classes. It has been so long that they have been going on these little mini dates, and he's been taking care of her and helping her out with XYZ, and just, again, being supportive and doing everything he can to get the stuff off of her bucket list and do everything that her ex-husband didn't. In a good way. It doesn't feel manipulative. It doesn't feel love bomby. It genuinely feels like he's just trying to be a supportive, caring guy, right? So I do want to acknowledge that. It does not feel love bomby or manipulative. It feels very, very genuine, the way that it's depicted. So by the time we get to chapter 30, it's been a couple weeks, and they've been going on these dates, and he's been treating her so well, and homegirl wants to get laid, And so she's talking to Denise and Micah about this and telling them about how he doesn't put out. I'm making a face if you can't see it. He ends up walking in on this, and so Micah asks him as much, and Wilder explains how he's trying to prove to her that their relationship is more than just physical. And so Scotty, accepting of this answer, accepts Wilder's proposal to go back to her apartment, where he has brought some X-rated material and toys from camp, and they use them, and it's a great time. And afterwards, Wilder asks if there's anything else that she feels like she missed out on with her ex-husband. She talks about how after they would be intimate, that her husband would never cuddle her. And so that's exactly what they do. He just holds her. There's only one thing left on the bucket list to check off, which is exactly what they do in chapter 31. We wrap up our book from Wilder's perspective. It's 2 weeks later. They're meeting with the relationship therapist guy, Sanders, yet again. So they've been spending time together. They've been happy. Everything's been great. That's not the only good thing, though. Micah and Wilder have also had brunch with their mother. They're trying to extend the olive branch and build that relationship back up. And so everything is going really, really well. And Scotty is seeming more and more confident in herself and in the relationship and who she is, and being more vocal about the things that she likes and the things that she wants in life. And so The final thing that they have left on her bucket list is to go on that boat ride through Central Park. And so that's exactly what they do. And while on said boat ride, he confesses his love for her. She feels the same. And now that they have finished the initial bucket list, they're going to make a new one of experiences that they can have together. Aww, and the book ends. It's so cute. And then in the epilogue, it's like a year later, they're back at the summer camp having a good time. I don't know. What do you want from me? Chad and his wife, I think, are pregnant at this point. And it's just good vibes all the way around. Like I said, I thought this book was incredibly cute. I liked the relationship dynamic. I liked the main male character, very written by a woman. So earlier I referenced The Bald and the Beautiful. Now I'm going to reference Smosh, which I do in all of my videos. There's a Smosh Chosen episode. They're playing Moose Master. This probably sounds like gibberish to anybody else. Angela Giarratana, they're going around. All the guys are talking about these books, and she says, "Have you ever read a book written by a woman?" It's so funny. She obviously didn't mean to say it that way. So anyway, it's a good time all the way around. Very much the main male character was written by a woman. You can tell it, you can feel it. It's good. Like I said, there's so much of the book that is cringy. Parts of me, I really, really enjoyed the dialogue. I really liked the dialogue, but I cringed out of my mind. It felt excessive in the cussing. It felt like the author maybe wrote this to be adapted into a movie or TV show instead of a book. It felt very encapsulated into this like time. You know what I mean? The way that the language that they're using and the way that they speak feels very dated already, even though it's literally been like a month since this has come out. Like it's very like 2020s coded, if that makes sense. And so I think all in all, I would give this a 3-star. I would definitely recommend it to people who want the whole like brain turned off enjoyment reading thing. I would recommend it to people who have maybe been in a relationship similar to the one that Scotty and Matt were in, and that wants like a little morsel of joy in what a future could be for them. I think that it's beneficial and healing in that way. I think it's a fun, goofy time. I don't necessarily think it's realistic. I don't necessarily think it was well written by any stretch of the imagination. I think it was an easy read. I think it was a fun read. I think it tried too hard to be funny, but it was still funny in some parts. Like, I end up in this weird, if you're watching visually, I'm just like, or if you're not watching visually, I'm just like rolling around, like my head in my hands, because I don't know what to do about it. I don't know how to review this book. I guess like probably the most solid 3-star of my entire life. Yeah. So that's that. How cool. I think that's all I have to say. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else. Would I read another Meghan Quinn book? Yes, but I would have to be in a particular mood for it. I can see why it's trending, I guess, is the other thing. I can see why this is one of the top sellers on Amazon, the Amazon charts currently. I 100% expect this to be nominated for the like Goodread Choice of the Year award thing. 100% I expect it to be on that list. What else? I don't think there's anything else. I don't know what review I'm doing next. Like I said, in terms of classics, I'm doing Frankenstein in 1984. But for like normal Thursday reviews, I don't know. I guess you'll find out. I should have a poll up by the time, maybe not by the time this video goes up, eventually. There should be a new poll that you guys can vote in, and you can pick the next video or the next book that I do a video on. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. And otherwise, check out my gaming channel. Like I said, link in the description box below if you want to see more of my content of having little silly hee hee ha ha fun times. I will be putting up another one of those. I plan on doing weekly uploads over on the gaming channel. So there you go. There's some bonus fun content. Thank you guys so much already for all of the phenomenal support over on that channel. Again, I'm so beyond grateful for each and every single one of you. I literally don't even have words for it. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.